If you are on the fence of getting a Panasonic Lumix G85, G80 or G81 to start your YouTube channel, then you are on the right place. Stick around and I'll share my long-term experience using this camera to create YouTube videos. Hi and welcome to Filmmaking and Stuff. I'm Chris. Stick around until the end of the video where I'll list my pros and cons of this specific camera. Before I start, I just want you to know that this camera has at least 3 different names, depending on the region it was originally intended for. G85 for the US, G80 for Europe, and G81 for Germany. I don't know why they call them different for different regions, but that's the way it is anyway. There might be other names I am not aware of. The only significant difference between the models is that the G85 US version does not have a 30-minute record limit, and it has to do with some old tax law that's not even relevant anymore. So given the choice, pick that one over the other models. In the rest of the video, I will refer to the camera as a G80, since that's the version I have. 3 things you need to know about me and how I have used this camera. Firstly, I want you to know that I have 2 G80s. Secondly, I know that there's already a plethora of other videos going through all the specs, pros and cons of this particular camera. And there have not been any new significant feature added through firmware updates, and to be honest, I don't think there ever will be. So why bother to make a video about an old camera, at least back in 2016, 19 September to be exact. It is 1,776 days old at the time of this recording. Or an easier way to say it, 4 years, 10 months and 12 days. So it's nearing its 5-year birthday. Thirdly, I primarily use my G80s to run this YouTube channel as a way for me to express my creativity and hone my filmmaking skills. So I think I'm in a pretty good position to talk about this camera, since I've made so many videos with it, and I've had it since June of 2018. But I also done some commercial work, mainly corporate stuff, and I think it's good for you to know what I've done, because I demand different things of my camera than, say, for instance, a wedding videographer might need. So why choose the G80 to run your YouTube channel? Almost 5-year-old camera? Well, for me it comes down to value for money, since the successor, the G90, the G91 or G95, has been announced in May of 2019, the price of the G80 has dropped significantly, especially if you try, as I suggest, to get it used. I've seen it around $300 with a decent lens, and that's what I call value for money. My first G80 was a demo unit at a reduced price, and the second one I found on the used market. Remember, this little camera is by many considered the G85's little brother, and as an aspiring filmmaker or YouTuber, it has many of the features you need. It has its flaws, but for the price point it's hard to beat. The recurring theme here is price, and I want to emphasize that. There are plenty of old great cameras, but not many with the feature set of the G80. However, it depends on what you're going to shoot with the camera. I mean, there's no such thing as a perfect camera. It all comes down to what are you going to shoot with it. If you're interested to see what the camera can produce, you can watch some of my older videos, because most of them are made with the G80. Under the video description of the specific video, you can find the gear used to create that video under the section Nerd Information. So, what do I lack with this camera? I lack the ability to audio monitor, because there's no headphone jack, but I have learned to work around it. Bigger is the problem that I cannot turn the audio gain lower than -12 dB. This means that even if I have my Rode VideoMic Pro turned to -10 dB, audio can still easily clip. Maybe get another mic that hasn't got as a hot signal as the Rode. Side note, Rode is an Australian company, and it has its O pierced like a slash as the last letter of the Danish alphabet. So shouldn't it be pronounced like the Danish? They can call themselves whatever they want, because they make great products. The other problem is the unusable continuous autofocus. Depending on what you shoot and your style, this can be a big drawback. Here are some continuous autofocus tests. I'm panning between my G80 and my G85, and you can see how it acquires focus or not. I mean, it does a decent job, but it's not cinematic, and it's a very well lit scene, even though if it's underexposed by 4 stops according to the G80. As you'll soon see, I'm
compensating, but then there's zebras all over the place. So and also I need to crank the ISO up to 1600, which is a bit too high for my taste. This autofocus test is made with the Lumix 42.5mm lens. But I mean, sure, you can use it. It's much better than nothing. But so maybe on YouTube it's okay, but for corporate or cinematic thing, no thanks.
I have learned to work around it. I used the blazing fast single autofocus before I started recording and avoid shooting scenes where the subject moves back and forth. I have a manual follow focus system, but it doesn't work well with most of my lenses since they are fly-by-wire, but I have used it with moderate success with my fully manual lens. The unusable continuous autofocus is for me the primary reason that I keep my eyes open for alternatives. Panasonic has gotten better at continuous autofocus. Occasionally I use continuous autofocus with my G85. There are times when it works decent. I'm hoping for the upcoming G6 having reliable autofocus. Before I got my G80, I used to shoot on an old Canon camera, a Canon 55D.
Correction, 550D.
Also known as a T2i. Getting the G80 having fast and reliable single autofocus was a blessing. Also, the switch to mirrorless was great. I've tried to use the G80's continuous autofocus sometimes, and in the right circumstances it can work, but only in situations where they are repeatable. To be clear, in most YouTube situations a great continuous autofocus is not a must, but you might have use cases where great continuous autofocus is a must. Fine. Then as of right now, Panasonic is not the brand for you. You're dismissed. In this tech/camera field, the truth is time is your friend. As you just wait, better cameras are released, and some of the owners of the G80 will upgrade and try to sell theirs on the used market.
Here's where great value for money comes in. Now you have the opportunity to try to get your hands on a used G80, a 4K camera with headphone jack, with great preamps, flip screen and an amazing in-body stabilization.
But waiting for gear might be a hindrance as well. Like many others before me have said, use what you have and play to your gear's strength and avoid shooting scenes that is on the weak side of the gear that you have. Think of this as a creative constraint, which is often a good thing rather than a bad.
What I'm trying to say, if you can't find a used G80 at a great price, start to create with the camera you have. Chances are big that you are watching me on a device that has a somewhat decent camera already.
Now my list of pros and cons. Pro. At the top of the list, great value for money. Micro Four Thirds, great availability of lenses at a good price, used. And also it seems like some people are leaving the system, which might help pricing. Micro Four Thirds possibility to adopt almost any lens and the possibility to use speed boosters. Great IBIS. Done right, you don't need a gimbal. What can I say? I'm a sucker for flip screens. Very good smartphone app to remotely control the camera. It's a super handy feature, especially doing talking heads videos like this one. And I can even set the focus, so autofocus is not an issue. Good menu system, and you can use either the buttons or tap the screen. Good weather sealing. 4K video, great for simulating a second angle with just one camera. Makes it easier to hide jump cuts, and downsampled 4K is often sharper than pure 1080. OK data rates, 100 megabyte options in 4K. Small and light. Good ergonomics, better than my G85 in my opinion. Good battery life. Good built-in time-lapse function. I've made a video about that actually. Link in the description. Many video features like zebras and focus peaking. And here comes the cons. Too high lowest audio gain. 30-minute record limit. Not applicable to the US G85 version. You can negate the 30-minute record limit with an external recorder, or you can watch my video about this cable and look at the last tip of that video where I have a very good solution to this problem. And my wish list: 10-bit color, 120 frames per second in HD, higher dynamic range, better low light performance, dual card slots. Well, basically everything that the G85 does. So there's an upgrade path there. My point of view and conclusion. To conclude, if you are on a limited budget and want great image quality and nice and easy handling, the G80 is a great option. And it still punches way above its weight in most areas, except the ones I already mentioned. But if you have a bigger budget or reliable autofocus is critical to you, then you should look elsewhere. But before spending all your money on the camera and lens, remember, for each dollar you spend on the camera equipment, you should invest the same amount in support gear like tripod, lights, modifier and the like, because they will enhance the picture way more than spending the same amount on a more expensive camera.
Actually, the sound is even more important than the picture, so get a decent mic.
I'm not the first one to say this, so well, but it's out there. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up icon. Consider pushing the subscribe button for more content from this channel. There's a comments field down below. For a reason, please use it. I read and reply on all comments. Well, at least all the civil ones. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now. Ja, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Wrappity wrap.